episode of The Blue Sofa, we're gonna dive into launching. So actually launching an online product, online course, online program, whatever it is that you wanna launch. I wanna talk about it from an angle where I want to share all the mistakes that I made, or like the most significant ones, because I have been launching, like actually doing structured launches online. I wanna say since 2016, 15, 16, so a good 10 years for now. And if you can imagine a mistake, you can be quite sure that I made that mistake. And that's why I want to share that with you today, because there's so many, and also I've been teaching launching to my clients through my product launch screen for a long time as well. And I have seen these mistakes that I have made. I have seen them been repeated in my clients, which is why I created Launch Screen, so I could kind of help them go through a launch without these mistakes. So one of the things that I remember when I started way back when with launching is that I was looking for the best play, the best thing, the best strategy to sell my products, my online courses, sell my online programs and stuff online. And I was convinced that it was launching. Like launching was the thing, that was the thing everybody did, that was the thing all the big gurus did, and like the go-to strategy for selling out. And to be honest, it is an amazing strategy, amazing. I just have some adjustments for you so you can actually use this amazing strategy without getting discouraged, without getting poor results, and without burning yourself out, because there's so much pressure in a launch. If you ever did a launch, you'll know this. And that is what I learned, like how to take that out. So I'll be sharing these mistakes I made. And also I want to give these mistakes to you because they taught me a lot about flow. They taught me a lot about resilience, and they taught me about the long game of sustainable success. Because I used to think, and maybe you do this too, I used to think that every launch had to be the one, the one that made me six figures or multiple six figures. And to be honest, I have had several six-figure launches, and it is amazing. But that mindset of going into a launch and be like, this has to be the one, I have to make it, put a lot of pressure on you, and it did on me too. So I was like really hung up with, this is the one, it has to be the one, this is the one that carries my business to the next level. And to be honest, there was never a launch that was the one that carried my business to the next level, because consistency carried my business to the next level, and sustainability, like being sustainable in your business, carried my business. So I want to share my 5 biggest launch lessons that completely changed how I now approach visibility, how I approach sales, how I approach leadership, my own leadership, leading myself, my energy, my mindset. So I now step into a launch with way more ease, softness, trust, of course. I remember a specific launch that I'm thinking about right now. I remember this one where I built everything. Like I put up the whole system, the launch system, the emails, the webinar, the ads, and so on. And I truly believed, like, this is the one that's going to, give me a business. At this point, I was just starting out. So this is the one that's going to give me like that cash flow in my business, so I can like go from 0 to 6 figures in 3 months, kind of a deal. And I know maybe some of you have been there and are like, well, Mia, that's probably not going to happen. Or you are there, or you're on the other side and you know what it takes to actually build a business. But my problem was at this point that I had been like buying into the whole propaganda around, oh, you just do this one thing and then you have this amazing business, right? So I truly believed this launch, I spent so much time on it, by the way. This launch is the one, it's going to be the big thing. It's going to be the thing. And the results did not match my expectations. It didn't. And I was like spiraling. Not so much because the launch quote unquote failed, But because I made those numbers mean something about me, and I made them mean something about my ability to, run a business, to attract clients, to sell my programs, and also about my program, maybe it's not good enough since only at this point only 6 people signed up, right? And it made me want to give up, basically. I was like, then I'm not sure I want to do business. And of course, when I look back, I know all of this had nothing to do with the launch itself. It has something to do with my energy and my mindset, like my mindset behind the launch. So I don't know if you can kind of see yourself in this, if you have any experience that you were disappointed in a launch or had so high hopes that maybe was not really realistic, and your mindset was like out of sync, and maybe you just worked way too hard and pushed yourself too hard, and when you were done with the launch you collapsed completely and were like, I'm never gonna do this again, and this was not worth it, and I'm not sure I'm even built for business. Like all of the things that you can tell yourself. I'm not sure if you have ever felt that way, but I know I have. And I know a lot of my clients come to me with the same experience. So let's dive in to the 5 mistakes, the 5 lessons from launching over and over again. And I hope each can become like a portal for you into, showing up with more emotional mastery than me, and, deeper alignment and more softness and more like grace for yourself, but also like smarter in the way you approach launching than I was 10 years ago. So my first mistake, and I think you might already have guessed that, because that is letting my results disencourage me. I want to say this in another way, because when I was starting my business, when I look back, I understand that I really needed a lot of hope, and I needed like a little bit of a hyped energy, because I was honestly afraid. I had so many visibility blocks. It was very difficult for me to get my voice out there and own myself, own my gift. And for me to, kind of persuade myself to get this launch into the world, I kind of had to have these over positive expectations, because otherwise I don't think I would have done it. So I'm not like shaming myself. I'm just like, my awareness is now that I understand why I needed to have these over positive expectations. And I thought for a long time that manifestation and really creating this business was about creating these quantum leaps where you tell yourself that you can sell this and this much, and you can do that even though you only have like 100 subscribers on your newsletter. And for me, at some point I had to like help myself get out of that mindset, because it was super toxic for me to be in that. Also because it didn't really help me show up from expectations that were supporting me. So my over positive expectations definitely helped me get started, for sure. But I was devastated when I did not, quote unquote, deliver those expected results from the first launch. And I think I was so afraid of failing that I kind of over-attached to the outcome. And as I said, I felt I had to have these over-positive expectations, because otherwise I was like, probably not gonna do it right. So when the numbers didn't reflect my vision, I completely lost trust in the process. I completely lost trust in myself and my own abilities. And I was like, is this even for me? The big lesson here for me was that, first of all, one launch will never define your worth or your potential. It's only a feedback loop that's telling you and me how many people are in your audience, how attractive is your product, does it need to be repositioned, or do you need more people in your audience? I'm going to talk a little bit more about this as one of my mistakes as well. Also, it's just like, it's simply a feedback mechanism. And also what it also showed me was on a more like emotional level that I was a little bit spoiled. I was a little bit of a princess that, oh, if I don't get what I want the first time, that I'm just gonna give up. Like, no empress. My brand is called the Soulful Empress, right? So no empress with emotional maturity, being willing to be in the softness and still getting results and still like going for that higher vision will ever treat herself in that way. She knows that it takes effort and consistency to build something, which is why one launch it has to really never be the one. There is not the one. There is like a continuity of building blocks in your business, right? So that was the first one, the first lesson I had. And it was that this is what I love about business, is that business becomes this initiation. It shows you where you are. It shows you what your mindset is. And it shows you where your energy is, like who you are. It shows you your identity and what needs to shift, right? And it's actually what really excites me about business is this is the thing we're dreaming about. The version of ourselves that we want to give birth to, the true version of ourselves. When our business is like reflecting back where we are right now, we get an opportunity to just from an honest and very like, loving place, look at yourself and be like, oh, well, this is definitely what needs for me to shift. Allow that version to come through, right? That was a little bit of a detour. Anyways, mistake number 2 is definitely not calling in more of the right people before the launch. And this is a mistake a lot of my clients are making when they come to me. They're like, I just want to start selling. And I know. I even saw an ad the other day where I was like, or the ad was all about, oh, you don't need to warm up, just start selling. And I get the messaging. I really do. But there is a vast difference from just going out there and selling and just taking a step back and understanding what person do I want to sell to? Like, who is the perfect match to this product, and calling them into your, in this case, I always say newsletter, like has to go into your tribe, has to go into that inner circle of yours that is your newsletter. Could also be social media and then newsletter, but really calling in those people, making sure that you have an audience that is aligned to your product. When I first jumped into launch, I just started to selling. I was just like selling, and I expected my conversions to be like the best conversions ever without warming up the audience, or without like attracting more people into my audience that were actually a match to this product. So what I learned was that people don't, if the right people is not in your tribe, your launch is going to fail, because there's like, you're trying to sell bananas to people who are looking for apples, right? So we want to make sure that if we're selling bananas, that we have people in our tribe that are looking for bananas. This is actually the reason why I created my course, Client Attractor, because I wanted a course that helped people to create a tribe of the right people and consistently be able to attract those people into their business. So whenever they launched, they had, this pool of people who are ready to purchase from them, right? And visibility and expanding your audience is now part of my launch strategy. It's not separate from it, whereas before it's like launching is selling. But for me, launching is not just selling anymore. It's also attracting the right people and then selling to them. So I think my biggest lesson here is that pre-launch is actually where the momentum starts. It's like building that pool of the right people and building those relationships. I'm going to come to that in the next one. Actually, before launching, that's where you build the foundation for a successful launch. And of course, let's move into mistake number 3. And that was not warming up my audience. And again, as I said before, I saw this ad where they were advertising, you don't have to warm up your audience. And I just want to say that I have found the opposite. I have found that yes, you can definitely just sell something, but your conversions are going to be way than if you build trust and you have a nurturing phase in your launch. And I didn't do that when I started out. When I put it in, completely, utterly changed my launch. I went from having maybe a 1% conversion rate to 5, 6, 8, 6, 7, 9, 10% conversion rates. Like imagine going from 1% to 5%. That is a lot. That is a lot. So what I found was when you don't warm up your audience just isn't emotionally or energetically ready to purchase anything. They're not at the space where they trust you and they understand that what you have is a solution for their problems. So when I integrated this warm up phase, it just completely changed everything. And this was where I was giving out a new lead magnet. I was like telling stories. I was giving out value and creating this resonance before even opening the doors. And my big lesson was that people simply don't buy just because you launch. They buy because they've been in a relationship with you, quote unquote relationship, and because they know she's the one I want to learn from, and whatever she has, I can get my problem solved, right? So the next lesson, the mistake number 4, is not evaluating your results after a launch. So I would rush straight into the next thing instead of reflecting on what actually worked. And I think the reason why I did this was because I didn't want to see it. I was like avoiding the confrontation with the numbers because I didn't feel like sufficient. I didn't feel good enough. And again, business is showing you where your key wounds are. So like diving into that state and journaling on those emotions were like one of the big keys for me to like being launching in a peaceful way. By the way, I have a whole podcast about that, so you can go back and check that out. Anyway, without evaluation, like going back and looking at what was working, what was not working, it's very difficult to grow your next launch. And you are probably going to make the same mistakes one more time. So when I finally began tracking my data, I was also like tracking my emotions and see like what is actually triggering me. And do I give too much? Do I kind of exhaust myself? I was tracking that as well. What happened was that not only on a strategic level did the next launch become better, also like on an emotional level and the access to my energy, because honestly I could launch every month now and I would be completely okay. I wouldn't have like this launch flu afterwards because I know how to balance my energy, right? So the lesson here is that it's the integration, the evaluation, and like allowing yourself to dive into what was working, what was not. That's where you get the wisdom. So always evaluate before you try to optimize. Like let the numbers show you what is working and what needs to be optimized. So we only optimize what is needed and not throw everything away or build something from scratch again like we would normally do, right? Because we're like, this did not work, so now I'm just gonna start from scratch. The thing is, people who have like a very successful business with cash flow in all the time, they don't build things from new. They don't build things from scratch all the time. They build on what is working, what the market wants and what they want to deliver to the market. And then they take it from there, right? And that makes things easier, way, way easier, because you don't have to produce all the time. You don't have to come up with things all the time. You can repurpose instead. But you can only do that if you are willing to evaluate and actually take the time to do that. Also, like I learned from evaluating my emotions and my energy. I learned, okay, what to heal and how to protect myself better. So I don't avoid doing certain things because I have blocks and wounds, emotional blocks and emotional wounds, and I don't give too much and burn myself out because I'm too accessible in my energy. So that was kind of what I learned that from doing launching as well and from doing the evaluation on my emotional and energetic levels as well. The 5th mistake is, and talking about emotional and energetic stressors, it's definitely stressing and pressuring myself too hard. So again, I already shared that I was treating every launch as the only chance to make it. And I have even had clients who treated every launch as, if I don't succeed in this I have to close my business. And that put yourself in a survival mode instead of creation mode. And it's very, very difficult to show up in easeful, effortless energy and be in that and create from that when you are putting yourself, conscious or unconsciously, in survival mode. Because the truth is, and also what I want to encourage here is that do not let one launch be the one launch. A launch is part of a more sophisticated and longer ecosystem of visibility and branding. So the mindset shift I gave myself is never ever rely on a single launch. Focus on the long-term brand presence and consistent connection that make each launch easier over time. And don't treat launching as an act of selling, but treat it as an act of branding. And I'm not saying that to be like, well, it's okay if you don't succeed. I'm saying this because it will help you keep on going. It will help you look at what is working, what is not working, so you can adjust and grow your business, more and more from every time you do a launch, and you don't wear yourself down doing it. So I always see it a little bit like this. You can build your business the hard way. You can put pressure on yourself. You can do more. You can hustle. You can even hustle in your manifestations because you're like, oh, I want to empower myself. But we can hustle trying to, be more and do more all the time. Or we can do it the easy way. The way where we allow ourselves to build through consistency, smart strategy, and we heal whatever wounds emotionally are coming up. We adjust our mindset. And also we look at how do I show up in the softest, most approachable way that does not wear me down. So I want to say, from 10 years of launching, I love launching, to be honest. It's still one of my favorite. I love automations as well and evergreens and all that stuff. I don't think, as I said before, I don't think there's one thing that's the best thing. There is a lot of selling strategies out there, and what matches you is kind of your inner job to figure out what is the aligned way of doing business for you. And I know a lot of people are going to tell you, oh, the best way is this, or the most feminine way of doing business is that. But the truth is, the best way, the most flowy way, the most vibrant way is your way. It's your way of doing it. And it takes sometimes a little bit of trial and error, and it also takes that you are willing to be in business and experience business on your body. Feel into what's actually coming up when I do these things that I do. But also allow yourself, brutally honest. Look at the scene of business mentors and coaches and teachers and feel into, or even other fellow entrepreneurs, and feel into what would I freaking love. And if launching is one of them, as it is for me, I freaking love it. I think it's amazing. Then remember this, you are not your results. And your results, actually, they don't even define you. And what matters is consistency, being consistent, and your energy, not your effort. That's what determines your magnetism, and that's what determines your alignment, and that's what determines what is right for you. So if it's a hell yes, it is a hell yes. If you're feeling drawn to launching, you do it. Do it because it's for you. For one reason or the other, it is for you. So I want to say I love launching, and I hope that this conversation have helped you to maybe detach yourself a little bit from your mindset and your emotions and your energy and look at, okay, what strategy would actually work for me and how can I make this work? And of course, I hope that will help you if you're in the middle of a launch or planning your next one to avoid these mistakes and really be able to go out there and be the best version of yourself and enjoy the process of launching, because it is and can be super enjoyable. And again, if you love this conversation, go out and check out Peaceful Launching. It is actually, I talk a little bit more about launching, and it's quite a nice supplement for this conversation. Also, give a review for my podcast. I mean, I love being here supporting you, and I love the more people, the merrier. So if you give me a review, then other people can see well, this is something that's worth my time and to actually spend time on. So again, thank you so much for being here, and I wish you a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next episode.